that. Welcome to those of you joining us from home and those of you that are here with us this evening. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there any public participation at this time?
I'm not exactly sure. We could do this either here or if you'd like, or at the booking number 11 for public participation.
We do one at the beginning of the meeting and one at the end, Chief. So if you, it's up to you if you have something you want to.
I'm here for most of this, so I'll be more than happy to. The Board of Selectmen have been working on a new school resource officer MOU, if I may approach.
Sure.
And they were hoping to keep this a fluid document.
I'm wondering if we can get you at the mic. Do you want us to pass it or?
Are those for us, though?
It's just so that.
That's correct. This would be for.
I just want you at the mic. You can hand them to me.
I'll give them to you.
Okay, thanks.
Just so that folks that are tuning in from home can hear you.
So the Board of Selectmen have been working on a fluid document for about the past 5 weeks in regards to updating the MOU between the police department and the SAU. And this was a draft that they have finished up tonight and wanted me to present you with for your input and any comments and everything you have on it, and then we can continue to work on the document over the next couple of weeks and months if necessary, and to try and work forward and continue the good relationship that we have and keeping this document alive. And so this is just something, and the town administrator and myself would be more than happy to come back at your next meeting or a meeting later to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, so it's our first time seeing it, so we're going to digest it a little bit. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So that was adopted tonight,
It was
earlier tonight,
adopted for me to present to you. So
to
it's still
present to us.
a fluid document. So.
Okay. And just folks can hear this voice in the background a little bit. Mr. Frieder is joining us remotely this evening.
I didn't hear exactly what was going on. So can I have a synopsis of what Jay said?
Right. Essentially, Chief is here. The Board of Selectmen have adopted, for the purposes of sharing with us, a proposed MOU between us and the police department. In reference to the school resource officer.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
May I ask why the Board of Selectmen is involved in something between the school and the police department?
Basically, they wanted to have their input as well, and they also wanted to include the school board's input as well into this document, so that it becomes a very knowledgeable document for everybody that's involved in it, and also to keep it fluid for the years to come. If changes were to come up, both boards would be aware of those things.
Okay. Did you?
Yeah, I sort of heard that. I guess I'm kind of concerned because the school resource officer has school information and children information, and I don't think the Board of Selectmen is appropriate for them to know that information. So I really think that while the document should be public, I don't think the Board of Selectmen should be producing it.
Yeah, the Board of Selectmen would not be privy to any information involving students. So this is just this is the administrative
so
level.
That's what I'm worried about.
Well, the chief is telling us that that's not going to happen.
That they're going to change that policy.
I think we need to read the MOU.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like us to digest it, and then we could probably ask some questions of Chief Drury.
Correct.
Yeah.
So is this the first time that anybody's ever seen a document that's was presented to us live?
Correct.
It was just presented to Chief tonight to present to us so that we could look at it.
Chief, could you send this to us in a document online?
I'm sure we can do that.
Email? Just so we're not like...
Literally, it came off the
Did you
press.
get any kind of notice that this was happening?
What was that, Stan?
What was that?
Did the school board, get any notice that this was going on, that this document was being produced?
No, I didn't.
I didn't.
So this would be the notice that
If you want to be,
we'd like to work
in the
forward.
spirit of collaboration, I'm not sure why we weren't involved in the production of the document from the beginning.
Well, I think that if I'm interpreting Chief correctly, this is the step in doing that. There's been some input, obviously, from them and from your department, and now it's being extended to us for input.
This is just a draft, correct?
This would be a really good opportunity for us to sit down with the Board of Selectmen and have this conversation. This could have been one of those things, agenda items, when we meet together with the Board of Selectmen. That would be a really good collaborative way to start this out.
And the police, I think.
Yes.
You know, if we're all involved, I think that would be great to have everyone sit down.
Yeah, and I can say, in working, with your administration over the summer, it was a great relationship. We accomplished monumental tasks this summer, and it was a pleasure. And this is just, to further those things and to make sure we're all on the same page. And like I say, it's a fluid document. I'm sure you'll want to make changes, and they may want to come back with other changes. But just to make the first step to start the process, I guess.
Did you have administration from the SAU input on this document at all?
No, basically, we took the old MOU from years ago and updated it, ran it past the town's legal counsel, and then made further changes to it. And at this point, even as it's a draft, wanted to present it to you because I'd hate to see, it's June and we still don't have an MOU. We were hoping to make everybody aware and work on this document over the next couple of weeks or months.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Brown?
Tim Brown from Melody Lane in Farmington. I just want to add a little bit of input, having served a number of years as a juvenile prosecutor. There's actually a state law under 169 where the police department and the SAU can share information concerning juveniles. However, that information has to remain confidential. That privilege extends to the board as their supervisor. However, the same privilege has to be provided with the confidentiality. For instance, if there was an imminent threat concerning town policy, that could be discussed, but it has to be discussed in private and sealed to maintain that privacy. So it's not...
And when you say the board, you mean the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen, yes. They're the supervisors of the police department. That 169 confidentiality clause extends to them as the supervisor of the police department. However, they're still bound by the same confidentiality rules that the police are as far as releasing in public. The same would be true if the chief had a situation with a student that involved a criminal aspect and the administration he wasn't getting help with. He would be able to, under that sharing statute, bring it to the school board for help, provided that the school board maintained confidentiality of that criminal investigation. So it sounds complicated, but I like the reaction of there's a problem that obviously needs to be ironed out for communication. And I love the board's response of saying, hey, let's all sit down and hash this thing out.
Thank you. Mrs. Barron?
You want to open the
I was just
Oh.
going to hearing. You need to open
Yeah.
the public hearing.
Okay, sorry. Mrs. Barron, if you could allow me to we're going to open a public hearing, and typically what I do when I open a public hearing is just tell folks that if they're here and have comments during the public hearing or questions, they can certainly do so. If there's nobody here that wants to do that, we'll keep it open for usually an hour. And then if someone wants to pop in, we'll conduct regular board business. But if someone wants to pop in and give me a wave and say, I'm here to discuss the topic under the public hearing, we will certainly stop and do that. The purpose of the public hearing, if I may read it from the agenda, is to the inhabitants of the town of Farmington, you are hereby notified that pursuant to New Hampshire RSA 198:20/B3A, the Farmington School Board will hold a public hearing for the purpose of accepting unanticipated revenues in the estimated amount of $9,783.98 from E-rate, which is expected to be received in September of 2019. These funds will be used in part to purchase a threat alert notification system for the district. RSA 198:20/B was adopted in 1999, giving the school board authority to accept unanticipated revenues on behalf of the Farmington School District. So we'll open the public hearing. I know that Ms. Vaughn has some additional information that she wants to share, but Mrs. Barron, I think you, at this point, you want to address the other topic, correct?
Yeah.
Please.
Just briefly, nice segue from the chief and Mr. Brown to ask if we will be receiving an update on the synopsis, that process of the investigation for the MOU. We've been waiting about 5 months for that synopsis. We've had a press release which really didn't talk about that, and I'm under the impression that the general public is not going to be entitled to reading the actual investigation per se that came out of municipal resources. So I guess tonight I'd like to know if we're going to be receiving an update on what I believe Attorney Lohman refers to as a synopsis.
I can say that right now, Attorney Lohman's recommendation is that the report not be released in its entirety because it contains student and staff members' names. She feels that by releasing the report in its entirety, the school district could be liable for potential lawsuits. She additionally said that what she is recommending is that we release the conclusion and the recommendations from the report. This board has to decide what we're going to release, and we will be discussing that tonight.
Okay. Could I ask that you at least consider a redacted version? I would not, in any way, shape, or form, want to see any minors' names released. The 9-page report that kicked us all off had positions redacted, and that's fine. But, so now you have a 9-page report, and you have a 5-month-long, I'm sure massively expensive investigation that we won't be able to take this point made by the police department SRO and compare it to what MRI found. There's not going to be basically, you're asking us to just take Attorney Lohman's advice, her opinion?
Not in what's released will be the findings, conclusion, and recommendations of the gentleman who did the actual investigation, who is Sean Murphy, who is a retired police chief that now works, I'm sorry? Sean Kelly. Why did I say Sean Murphy? He's a coach for St. Thomas. Sean Kelly, who is a retired police chief and works for MRI. Right now, that's the legal advice that we're getting. This board has to hash out whether we're going to follow legal advice or go further.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the public? Mr. Brown?
Okay, public hearing.
For public hearing? Okay. Anything else for public comment outside of public hearing? Okay. Did you want to share yours first? Want me to entertain questions?
You'd like to hear it?
Okay.
Okay. We have on the table tonight a public hearing that is kind of unwinding a whole lot of pieces that have happened over time. And so what I did was to go back to see what had happened since May 13th and to look at what was posted, what the minutes were, what the votes were, what the motions were, on through to see what still needed to be done, if anything, to make sure that we land in the right place. So on May 13th, there was a public hearing for the purpose of expending funds from the Special Education Expendable Trust Fund, the Technology Trust Fund, and the Farmington School District Construction and Renovations Fund. Those three funds were also, well, the expense from those funds, and then there was also a portion of that to accept unanticipated revenues from E-rate, the Public Safety Infrastructure Grant, and FEMA. So you had 6 things going on at once for that public hearing. There was no recorded vote for that public hearing. There was discussion and no vote. Moving forward to June 3, there was a next public hearing that was for the purpose of expending funds from the School Equipment Expendable Trust Fund for the purpose of purchasing an updated sound system for Farmington High School and Henry Wilson. The vote for that happened in a later meeting. On June 10th, the votes to expend from trust funds happened. There was a vote for $150,000 from the Special Education Expendable Trust Fund. There was a vote for $11,000 from the School Equipment Fund. There was a vote for up to $75,000 from the Technology Fund. There was also a vote to accept unanticipated revenue that same night, June 10th, from E-rate, from FEMA, and from the Public School Infrastructure Grant. So those pieces were taken care of from May 13th on June 10th. There was, on August 5th, the minutes read, vote to expend from capital reserve for heating systems replacement for the day tank. The request is to take funds from capital reserve in the amount of $14,125. There was no recorded vote there, and the heating systems replacement CRF wasn't included in the previous public hearings. That piece we're still going to need to do. The board did vote to post a meeting for the 19th of August, and there was a motion to accept the E-rate funds up to $10,000 to be deposited in the SAU Technology Fund. On August 19th, there was only one vote, and it was to rescind that vote, which is where some of that confusion came in, because it rescinded the vote to accept and deposit. The E-rate had already been accepted previously, but the vote had been to accept and deposit in the Capital Reserve Fund, which Mr. Brown pointed out to us at the last meeting on the 9th, couldn't happen. And so that vote was rescinded in the public minutes on August 19th. That was the only vote that was taken. There was not a vote taken on August 19th regarding the public hearing. So then when we get to public participation for September 9th, Mr. Brown pointed out there wasn't a vote on the purpose of the public hearing, only there was the vote to rescind. And so we agreed to have the meeting tonight. As I went back to try to unwind what had happened where, I wanted to make sure we had all of the votes and all of the hearings straight. Special education was posted, hearing happened, and the vote took place. Equipment, posted, hearing happened, vote took place. The technology fund, posted, happened, hearing happened, vote took place. The piece that we need to unwind was what the E-rate monies, they're accepted, but they can't be posted back. We can't expend from the technology fund and then put them back into the technology fund without a warrant to place unexpended funds into that fund. So that was rescinded. The funds had been accepted. Those are the E-rate funds. Now, we are looking to expend those E-rate funds, but because those have been accepted and deposited in the general fund, we do have the authority to expend those without a public hearing. The piece that we need to do now is for the day tank piece at Valley View. Originally, I had looked at that coming from the Construction and Renovations Fund. It makes sense for it to be from the Heating Equipment Fund. It could come from either. And so one has been posted without a vote. One has been voted without a posting. So we need to decide what we're going to do. And what I would like to ask the board to do is to reconfirm some of the votes tonight so they're all in one place. So those who are trying to figure out where things have looped through, we have it in one meeting. This is what's happened. So to reconfirm the vote for accepting the E-rate, the FEMA, and the E-rate, FEMA, and public infrastructure grant all in one place, that we've accepted the votes for using the technology fund, for using the equipment fund, for using the special education fund, all in one place. It's been done, you're reconfirming, you're not voting for the first time. And then we need to either decide that we're going to expend the funds for the day tank from the construction and renovation fund that has been posted, or if we want to repost and have that come from the heating equipment fund. Either way. But that's where all of this winds out. And then to go back to talk about the whole point of those E-rate monies that were going to be spent for a system that allows us to be in communication with the police department in an emergency, where that was coming from and why, because I think that got lost in the votes. Does that speak to part of what you were looking at?
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Brown.
Tim Brown again. With the chair's permission, I'd like to ask the superintendent, what portion under the E-rate monies is this coming back? Is it a Form 470, which is the equipment, hardware aspect of the installation, or is it 471, which is reimbursement to make affordable Wi-Fi in our schools?
My understanding is that it's reimbursement.
E-rate?
E-rate.
Right, E-rate is reimbursement.
Can you come to a mic?
Come
or
right
just
over
come
here.
to the table?
This one right here.
So we're not doing mics. So E-rate that we're bringing back in, the unanticipated funds are being reimbursed from discounted past services. And we have consultants that we work with who...
Just to get to my question, is it past services for hardware, or is it past services for communication and internet services to the school district or library?
It is for internet and communication services. However, E-rate those funds do not have to go specifically back into that area. I've checked with the consultants with the state, and they have let me know that that is not the case with E-rate, with the BEAR funds is what they're called,
Okay.
that come back in.
That's fine. Can I comment now?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Going through a budget process, which the board is well aware of, the taxpayers vote 100% of our cost of our internets for the schools. Any taxpayer that has a cell phone additionally pays a tax on that cell phone, which provides funds to this E-rate, which reimburses money to schools and libraries to make sure that internet is affordable in the schools. So the taxpayer has already paid the full internet bill out of their taxes. So there'd be a revenue or a reimbursement line of zero in that budget right now. So by putting a zero in there saying we don't know whether we're going to get E-rate money back, we're now calling it unanticipated revenue. The whole purpose of this is to make sure that internet in our schools and library is affordable. The taxpayers already paid that bill. The taxpayers are now, through the board's vote, being reimbursed for those monies that they put up front out of their pocket. And now we're going to spend them on something totally different rather than returning those monies to the taxpayer, which I think is wrong. And to make my point kind of simple, it's like taking a $10 bill out of your pocket and saying to your son, daughter, nephew, or niece, hey, go to McDonald's and get a hamburger. And when they come back, you say, hey, where's my change? They say, oh, you gave me a $10 bill. I had change, so I went out and bought all kinds of candy. That's not the purpose of the $10, and that's not the purpose of this E-rate money. The purpose of the E-rate money is to make Wi-Fi affordable. When we spend it on something else, we don't make Wi-Fi and communication services affordable.
And
Mrs.
I'm,
Barnes. Well, go ahead if you want to respond to that, and then I'll
Yeah.
not acknowledge Mrs. Barron.
And I agree, I understand where you're coming from with that. And the other thing I would come back with is if we're using it for something else, it's something else that we're not coming back to the taxpayers to ask for them to pay for.
But that's the taxpayer's decision. If you need a piece of equipment, or you need something that's important to the school system, you ask the taxpayers, and the taxpayers are very generous. And I'll give you an example and a solution I'd love to see. If you want to take and dedicate this $9,000, put it in a warrant article, and ask the taxpayers to fund it out of that money. If they don't fund it, it goes into the general fund. If they agree with what you want to spend it on, they spend it. But that should be a taxpayer decision because it's taxpayer dollars. Not a lot of money, but if we allow it to happen here, we're going to allow it to happen with all those other zeros that this year went into the revenue side of the budget.
Mrs. Barron.
Mary Barron, Ridge Road, Farmington. I quote from a document that I found online. I would be more than happy to leave with administration. It's an 8-page document. It's issued by the Universal Service Administration Company, which is the overseer of all E-rate. This is the document. I quote from it. E-rate is not a grant. It is an annual application process for disbursement through the Universal Service Fund. There are no yearly reporting requirements. However, and this is a very important line, all services and equipment requested under the E-rate program must be utilized by the applicant to meet program requirements. Program requirements on the E-rate allow those monies to be spent for internet, telecommunications, not for an emergency. Although I wholeheartedly agree with that, we have people right here in town that can offer the service of emergency contact. That is not what the issuing committee allows you to do. This document issued by the people that manage E-rate, and they are the only ones that manage E-rate, will tell you must be utilized by the applicant to meet program requirements. Further than that, in a general discussion I found under a federal document, E-rate is the commonly used name for schools and library programs of the Universal Service Fund, which is administered by this group. The program provides discounts to assist schools and libraries in the United States to obtain affordable telecommunications and internet access. Nowhere does it add and an emergency alert system. So, if the cleanest way, and I'm a rookie, the cleanest way would be to accept the E-rate money which you have, find a way to enhance your telecommunications or your internet, take the $5,000 that you need for the emergency alert out of the capital reserve fund that is there for that purpose, that the taxpayers have already paid money, we paid our taxes, which allowed that money to fund that CRF. That's what the CRF is there for. You are agents to expend. Why the hocus pocus with taking $9,000 out of here that's supposed to be for that, according to the government, and using it for something else? If you have an explanation, I would love to hear it. The second part of that is, within the same document, the applicant should carefully consider whether to receive discounts on bills directly from the service provider or receive reimbursements for goods and services paid in full to the service provider. Why not, when you file for your E-rate application, which is coming right up, why not just take the discounted bill? If your internet bill for the entire district is $20,000 a month, and you can knock that down to $18,000 a month, it's going to the purpose that they say it has to go to. Thank you.
responses to that? Okay.
Talk to that? Thank you. So, when I spoke with the E-rate consultants, because I came in and I found out that we were getting these unanticipated funds, I asked them, I said, I need to understand these funds coming back, what are the restrictions on these? Because I'm working directly with USAC certified consultants. And I said, what are the restrictions? Well, I want to make sure that they're used as they're expected to be used or as they need to be used. And they said, actually, these are different because these are not the funds that you were used to purchase. These are coming back. That's different, and that's what makes them different. And there actually is not restrictions on them. So how the district or the taxpayers would like to use those funds, that is up to that district and that community. It's not restricted as the funds that you're using. So for instance, right now, putting in an application such as I have, the funds I'm putting in to purchase things, I have to use specifically as they were put in to be purchased, as they are outlined. I have to the detail, do that. That's different than funds that come back from discounted resources and so forth. That is very different, and that's what I made sure that they outlined, but it's absolutely would be fine to get that information back, provide it to the school board so that you have that, and that way you have an understanding of how. But Stan, you're also familiar with how this works as well, correct?
Yeah.
Stan, did you hear the question?
Yes. Can I speak?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're up next to the microphone.
Okay. So what I think has happened is actually the funds that we're calling an E-rate fund are actually our general fund money. Because if all of these were reimbursement funds when they came back from E-rate as reimbursements, and we put them in a specific pot, we shouldn't have done that. Because if you paid, $1,000 for your internet bill, and our district portion was 40% and E-rate portion was 60%, 600 of that money that we got reimbursed should have gone for our internet bill. And apparently it didn't. It went into a special fund that they were holding in a pot. But really, it's supposed to go for the $600 that we owe, that they are reimbursing us for. So what we really did was we spent $600 of our E-rate reimbursement on the $1,000 internet bill, and we put $600 of our own general funds into a pot, because the E-rate is to reimburse things we've already bought. And so it shouldn't have built up. It should have been used to pay for those things, and the general fund money should have been used in the general fund. So from my point of view, we can use these funds for anything, because they've labeled it as a E-rate fund, but it isn't really E-rate money, because the E-rate monies should have been used for reimbursements for all the things that we were reimbursed for. So it should have been already spent. And we've been putting our own money aside for no good reason, apparently. That's my take on it.
And I think we're looking at two pieces, because we're not talking about the funds that are being returned because they were put into that fund and sat there for several years, and we're going to talk about that as we unwind the unexpended fund balance. But this part is the E-rate funding that was received or is anticipated to be received this month, and from the Bear Fund that will come back into general fund. It's not being set aside, it comes back into general fund. And we're just letting people know this is our intent to expend those funds.
My question is, these E-rate consultants, where are they from? Who do they?
Well, that's who the district's been using. They are Epic. They're a well-known. They work with Oyster River. They work with a lot of different districts. It's who the district has been using for quite a long time, because this application came years before I came on.
I'm just curious as to why their interpretation and recommendation is different from the document that Mrs. Barron just shared.
They're different funds. That's why. Because there's the funds you use to actually purchase, that is different. And those have, like she is absolutely correct, the funds you use to purchase, you have to use those as detailed in the USAC application. This is different. This is what's coming back. That's not the same as the funds you're given to purchase.
By whether you file a 470 or a 471.
So she's
Brown?
absolutely correct in that.
you're hearing the word, this is not a grant, and that's in the federal document that I have a copy of. This is reimbursement. Purpose of the reimbursement is to pay for internet services. And that money should be spent according to the guidelines and what it was intended for. So you get a box of money in your internet lines. Take that E-rate money, and you say, okay, this is going into that line. That's what it was designed for. Now, because the taxpayers didn't want to short the school district on their internet if we didn't get those funds, you have excess amount of money in that line. It's not unanticipated revenue, it's an overly funded line. Now, the school board has the ways and the means to line item transfer within their budget for something that is in that budget and allowable with that budget to spend the money. But what I'm saying to you is because we were conservative in the budget process, how many years have we gotten E-rate? And all of a sudden this year it's a zero on anticipated revenue. So if we had $1 there in that line, this wouldn't be unanticipated revenue. It would be revenue that would offset that budget because it's money coming in. So the way we're doing it now, budget was conservative because the federal revenues were changing, and a lot of zeros for anticipated revenue were put into that budget to give the taxpayer a really accurate look at what could happen with this budget if we don't get those federal monies. So this is one of those zeros. So now because if it's a zero and the money's coming in, we're all of a sudden saying, hey, this is unanticipated, even though we've received it, I'm guessing, and I don't know for a fact, year after year after year. So it's not a grant, it's a reimbursement. And when you look at the statutory definition of unanticipated revenue, does it meet it?
And to speak to that, two pieces. You're right as far as the reimbursement coming in, but because I don't have, this is what it is, even if I'd put $1 in that line, because if I had anticipated $1 and I got 10, 9 is unanticipated. So I would still have to accept it if it's over $5,000 by our policy, we have to bring it in differently. So in that, I understand what you're saying. And I absolutely understand what you're saying as far as it goes to this, and then if we wish to do a line item transfer, that's different.
I disagree with your analysis on $9 is unanticipated, because what we're looking at right now in our legislature is a bill to bring approximately $2 million to our school district. DRA will not set the tax rate. Call Penny to confirm up the DRA until we have that hard line number.
Right.
Because our revenues, which are now going to increase by potentially $2 million, are going to affect that tax rate.
Yes.
So that money coming in is going towards the revenue side of the budget. It's not $2 million unanticipated revenue, and that's coming right from DRA. So I disagree with your analysis on what's coming in. We predict low. On the town side, we have car registrations. Every year we exceed what the prediction is. But on the revenue side, that is then brought up and adjusted to balance what's coming in. Same thing on
Same thing happens
the
here.
zeros. If we put $1 in there, then all of a sudden we get the E-rate notification. That revenue line should be adjusted up
And it
to
is.
offset.
It is. When we do our tax rate setting,
Yeah.
we do an adjusted revenues rate with DRA every year that says, these went up, these went down, this is where these are our actuals, and that does happen.
So my point is with this, because you were conservative, and I appreciate that, because you were conservative and predicted 0 instead of 1, when that revenues are adjusted, you would have seen the other $9,000 as revenue versus unanticipated revenue, because we get it every year. It's $10,000, it belongs to the taxpayers, it's reimbursement, not a grant. Put it where it wants. If you want to spend it on something else, my opinion is, for whatever it's worth, put it in a warrant article, ask the taxpayers who have been generous with you, let them decide on how to spend the money.
Did you have another point to make, Mrs. Barron?
I still maintain that the simplest way to do this, the 470 is for equipment, a 471 is for services. I'm going to ask the question, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Did we file a 70 or a 71?
For that, for the one that's coming back, that was not equipment, that was services.
Okay, so 471 says we're requesting some assistance to help with the cost of telecommunications and internet. That's 471. That is extremely specific as to what you can do with those monies. The easiest way to do it, I'm going to say it again, you've got $5,000 that you need for the emergency alert system. You are agents to expend. Expend it out of that CRF. Allow the $9,700, which is supposed to be for reduction, helping people. We pay our taxes for that through our internet and our phone bills. That money then, if we qualify for it, and obviously we do, we get that money back. But it's not so that you can go out and buy lollipops. It's not that you can go out and put a new bookshelf up. It is there for the simple, specific purpose to go back into that line. Take your $5,000 out of the capital reserve. Take this $9,700, which is a blessing. I'm sure that she can find a place where that money could be used. If you, I don't want to use the violate, if you deviate from the purpose as specified in this document, my opinion is that you are jeopardizing, should there be an audit, as to whether I filed a 470, a 71. I filed a 471. We got a rebate. The money was used to buy something that does not confirm. If an audit happens, you, by spending that $9,600, $9,700 on the emergency alert fund and whatever else is left over, wherever else, you're putting the district in jeopardy that an audit discovering that would terminate any future amounts, any future rebate rates. They're going to come back and say, you knew that a 471 said it's got to go to improve your telecommunications or your internet. You used it for something else, off the table. If you want to take that chance, by all means do so. I wouldn't recommend it.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I guess I would like to have an opinion from somebody up at E-rate or a legal opinion.
Right, and I can absolutely have our consultants.
No,
Here's the federal guidelines.
right, but if she's getting alternate information, I want to know where the, right, but where, I get that's what you're bringing, but where are they getting the information saying that you can't?
Or how is it that they can interpret that to that extent?
Right, absolutely. So I have no problem with getting that information from the consultants with their background. We've been using them for a long time. In fact, they are very familiar with our history here. They're very helpful for me to understand where things have been here. They're excellent with their records, so I would absolutely have no problem getting that information. I've had them in connection with Ms. Mellon, and Ms. Mellon spoke with them and the auditors while she was going through the audit process to make sure that anything that we did,
Go ahead, sorry.
it's okay, was correct and done in the correct manner that the auditors would agree with as well. So absolutely, I can get that information
So,
for you.
so the auditors.
But,
Just
and I'm not saying they are, consultants can be wrong.
Right.
We've had lots of consultants here over the years, and in my 20-year tenure, we had a lot of consultants that were wrong about a variety of things. So I'm not saying they are,
But to get the information from them.
yeah, because,
And then check.
Can I comment?
yes,
So again, my point is, since E-rate is a reimbursement program, if we got any money at all back, it means we've spent 100% on something, and they're reimbursing us for a certain percentage that we get. I don't know what our percentage is, but they are reimbursing the district for things we already bought. So rather than using that money to reimburse it, which is what really happened, what we did is we used the reimbursement money to reimburse ourselves for whatever it is we already bought, and we put our own money into a fund that we called it an E-rate fund, because it couldn't sit there. The E-rate would not give it to us unless we already spent it. So it was money that has already been spent and was already categorized for certain expenditures that were obviously legal because we got the check for it. So the problem now is you have to stop thinking about the money in that fund as E-rate money, because it is not. It is really our district money, and then we can spend it, I suppose, as we want, because the money that actually came back in E-rate is paying for a portion of things we've already spent and already budgeted for. So it's not really E-rate money. We would have to spend it on those other things that we already bought, and those sales are already over, and it's already done. And the other point about when you pay into the Universal Service Fund, it is not captured in the town. It does not reflect the taxpayers in the town. It goes to the federal budget of Universal Service, and it comes back to each town. It is not proportionate to who pays in, or it's not proportionate per town. It doesn't matter. It's based on poverty and need. So everybody's money goes into a single pot, and once it's in that pot, it doesn't belong to any taxpayer. It doesn't belong to anybody. It belongs to the United States of America taxpayers, and it all comes back in accordance. So you can't really balance it or say that we're using our Farmington taxpayer money, because that's a little bit incorrect. Thank you.
Mr. Brown.
Can somebody tell me how many years we've received E-rate money? Approximately?
I'd have to go back. I know that we have, as I've started to go back in the process to see what's in there. I know at least goes back into right before where Middleton was still here.
Okay.
So I know it goes that far back.
So is it fair to say we've received it for at least 4 budget years?
Yes.
Yes.
It is. And
Yeah, I think it might be 5. yes.
And I will say that prior to this year, those funds had been set aside. Those funds are now being returned to the taxpayers because of the way they were set aside. And I'm going to explain that in a moment.
But here's my process in the budget, and I'll try to simplify it. You've got expenditures, that is what it costs to do our school. And I think we set a budget of around $16 million. We have revenue that comes in that offsets that number. So in the budget process, if we look at our communications line, we have the expenditures, which the taxpayers have paid in full, and we now have revenue coming in. We've gotten it for 4 years. Yeah, we can't say 100% we're going to get that money in, and the superintendent was conservative and put a 0 in that line, which I have no problem doing. But now all of a sudden, when the money comes in, it's like, hey, because we put a 0 there, it's unanticipated, let's spend it. And I don't think that's the right process to go through. I don't think, I'd like you to accept the money, and I have no problem with you accepting the money. It's how you spend it from there or where it goes is what my issue is, because I think it's revenue that goes back to the taxpayer versus a grant like Homeland comes in at the last minute and says, hey, here's $200,000 that you can spend on school safety. It's not that. It's a reimbursement for something that we already paid. And as far as Stan's comment, and I respect him and he's more knowledgeable on the subject, but that fund that was established by the FCC is built up from taxes that we pay on our cell phone. And that big pool of money across the country, it's not just Farmington taxpayers that pay into it, but that money comes from taxpayers. So we're taxed to get E-rate money, and we're taxed in our school portion of our property tax bill to fund our internet at 100%, and then when the reimbursement comes in, we want to spend it on other things.
Blanche Tanner. I don't know anything about this topic, so I'm not here to agree or disagree with what anybody has said. But I do, it's a little hard to hear tonight with the air conditioning, but I appreciate the air conditioning. But I just would like to make a comment. The consultants that she's talked with, would it be possible, and maybe this has already been said, would it be possible to get something in writing from them?
Yeah, absolutely.
That says,
Yes.
yes, so that if the school district is ever called to task, they have something in writing, and those people would back up the school, and therefore the lawsuits would go out the window. I mean, I don't know anything about it. just a personal opinion or question, I guess. Thank you.
You're absolutely correct. And
It's a
what-
good point, but
Absolutely.
I hope that if we get something in writing, we reference this document.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd also check to see if other districts had worked with them before as well. And Oyster River is one of the bigger ones that's worked with them. They've worked with quite a few New Hampshire districts and still do.
Ms. McElhenney?
So several questions and concerns have been brought up this evening, and I think that there's definitely some reasonable doubt in regards to this. In regards to the public hearing tonight, can we table this until we have this information? What is the process?
Well, we can recess it.
We can have the public hearing.
We can have
and
the public hearing. We can, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and then we could wait. We don't have to vote tonight.
We don't. I would say perhaps on this piece, you've already accepted the monies. That part's done. So you don't have to vote to say those are going in any one particular place at this point. And I think right now, until you get that piece, it's probably best to wait. I would ask that we go ahead and reconfirm those other votes, so the other pieces that were kind of hanging are at least captured in one place.
What's wrong with capturing them at the next meeting? Anything?
Could certainly happen. I would like at least maybe a decision of which way we're going to go with the day tank piece, because I do need to, since some of that work is already in place, I'm going to need to see where we go with that.
Okay.
Point of order, I don't believe that vote would be appropriate under a public hearing.
It would be during this meeting, not during the public
Not-
hearing.
yeah, not
right,
during the
yes.
public meeting.
Yes,
That's not-
thank you.
That's not the way I heard that.
Yeah.
thank you.
Mr. Brown?
If there's a vote needed to reconfirm the acceptance of the money, I have no problem with the board accepting the money. I want to be clear on that. My problem is, where does it come from there? And I can tell you that the next budget session, if this goes a different direction, I will be attending, and all those zeros that were put into the budget, I'm going to ask the budget committee to now make $1 bills so that it's not. I mean, the big question is it unanticipated revenue or is it revenue? And because we did something different last year to be conservative, we're now saying, hey, guess what? This is unanticipated. We can spend it. And I don't think that's correct.
I think the difference too is what you're talking about is in our general fund, and E-rate had not appeared in our general fund prior to. It obviously needs to now, because that other fund has now been unwound and is being returned, it will be part of the general fund. It was not prior to our being able to unwind that with the auditors and return it at the end of last year. And so now that would be possible. Prior to that, it was not, because that's not the way it was set up in our accounting. Should it have been? We can beat that up forever. Was it? No, it wasn't. And so that's more able to happen moving forward.
I think we could recess the public hearing as well if you want to recess it and come back with more information at the next meeting. And then the people that are invested in this conversation will know that it's going to happen.
And then we don't have to necessarily repost it either.
Right, because it's recessed.
Right.
You can recess it for that long?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Any other comments about the public hearing subject matter? I think we're on another, 15, 20 minutes before we close that out?
Well,
Yeah,
if
7:40?
we're going to recess it. then-
Well, we can recess it. I mean, there may be someone that's
Somebody
watching
might
at home
wanna
and say,
come.
hey, I'm running up there.
Okay.
Okay?
15,
15, okay. You'll let me know.
7:35.
Okay. I'm going to actually jump ahead from approval of minutes and ask us to look at one new business item. We have a staff member here and a young lady who probably has homework, better have homework,
She might be done already.
It's probably done knowing this young lady, right? But anyway, we're going to talk about senior class trip has a proposal to make and asking us to approve it, so. All right?
I think
I
some
think
of
we
them
already
are.
have.
They're already
Do you
on the
have a
table.
copy?
Yeah, I think so.
Mr. Shagnon beat you to it. There you go.
All right, so
I think it's, is that the same one? No.
it's an then maybe not. That's
okay.
the itinerary of.
Oh, it's on the back. Yes, we have it.
So my name is Jelana Stevens. I am the class president of the class of 2020, and I'm here to talk about our class trip. We plan on going to New York City from April 24th to the 27th of April, which it'll come into our April vacation, and we'll only be missing one day of school. And it's $780. Any questions I can answer.
The itinerary looks amazing. It looks like
I'm
you'll
super
have
excited
a
about
great
it.
time.
Do you need chaperones?
Just kidding. Apparently it's not the 24th to the 27th, it's the 25th to the 28th, and we're not missing any school. So it's a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday
Okay.
into the April vacation.
Did you want to talk about anything on the itinerary that you're excited about, or?
Personally, I'm excited to go to the Little Italy in Chinatown. That's on the third day. And so I'm excited for like the culture aspect of it.
So, this is not uncommon for us to get requests like this for senior class trips that are, out of state. There's always a concern, like, it says you have a lot of fundraisers planned.
Yep.
What's the interest level right now? Like,
So the interest level is so we had a vote a little like last week about what dates will work for everyone, and 75% of our student body said that they want to go during April vacation. So that has 75% of our interest. There was 50 kids out of 61 kids that voted that to do it during April vacation. And before, when we had our top three, we had Myrtle Beach, New York City, and just this quick Six Flags trip down to Springfield. And I believe it was 66% of our student body voted for New York City. So we have a large amount of interest, and we already told them how much it would cost. We already told them all the possible ways to get the cost down for them, like fundraising and participating in our class activities. So they all know how much they're gonna have to pay, and a lot of people are really actually excited to go down and see New York City, because a lot of people in our grade haven't actually been out of New England.
questions from the board?
Just a quick question. You had mentioned that you have an idea of what the amount might look like after fundraising. Do you know?
I know for me personally, I've already participated in 2 fundraisers, and I've already knocked my price down by $50. So, and we have our next fundraiser, which is October 24th, and it's a paint night, $25. So if you want to go ahead and paint and support our class, that's perfectly fine.
Where is that going to be held?
It's going to be held at the Farmington House of Pizza. And we have our Christmas fair. We're going to have ice skating. We're going to have the Henry Wilson dance. And our Yankee Candle fundraiser, which is really big. So we'll have plenty of fundraisers, plenty of opportunities for people to come and help our class and participate to get money off their trip.
Motion to accept.
Motion by Mr. Lewis to accept the senior class trip proposal, and a second by Mrs. Moran. Further discussion?
Good luck.
Gonna miss any softball?
Actually, no, I will not, because
That's a personal question. I'm sure it was.
I will be talking to our AD to see if we can get some softball schedules moved.
The motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Good luck.
So
Well
was
done.
Was that 4 or 5?
That was 4. Stan, did you vote? Did we lose Stan?
Just out of curiosity.
Just checking so that you can get the
Stan? What happened? He's on.
I'm assuming, because he came out, is Brian an advisor?
Yes.
Standing in there?
We have 2 advisors. Sorry. Yeah.
Just a...
It was 4-0 because Mr. Frieden was
Okay.
not here.
I'll just call him back.
Okay. Okay, let's go to approval of minutes. I will wait for you to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Did you vote yes for the senior class trip?
No, I had a discussion question, and you just didn't hear me, and we went past it without me.
We could not, I didn't hear anything from you, Stan.
You gotta get a vote.
Do you have a, what's your
I'm
question?
going to allow Mr. Frieda to ask a question.
Yeah, my concern is always that these trips are really expensive and they exclude our poorer students. And I asked last time for the class president to let me know how many people out of the class went, and I never get that information. And
Oh, you mean after the fact?
Yes, we never get a report of how many people actually went. If the senior class has 50 and only 15 people go, and you're all raising money for 15 people, it's really excluding 35 people, and it's not really a class trip. It's a trip for the elite, and I'm really concerned that our class trips are getting expensive, and they're getting to be elitist trips. They're not trips that the whole class can take and the whole class can enjoy. I understand the learning experience, and I understand all of what's valuable about going to New York City. I also understand that 20 years from now, there are going to be 35 people who've never had that experience and couldn't enjoy it. And, maybe wish they went someplace closer and could enjoy things with their friends. I'm really concerned about that. And we never, ever address that. And I've asked that for the past 4 or 5 years, and I've never gotten a real serious answer about it.
Well, I don't know that this class can particularly answer what last year's class had for attendance. I mean, we could certainly look into it. Did you hear the conversation about all the different fundraisers and opportunities to hack away at that bill, at that total bill?
But we never get a report of how much the trip was, how much money was fundraised, who got the dispersal of all the fundraising, benefits. I'm assuming that the benefits go to people who go on the trip. So if you're poor and you don't have any money at all, getting an extra $100 isn't really going to help. But if you're wealthy enough to afford a $1,000 trip and you only have to pay $900, that's wonderful. But again, we're subsidizing people of means, and we're not really allowing all of our students to learn something or get an experience of a class trip. If we outprice it, if we overprice it, so that many more people can't go.
I'm going to argue with you respectfully for a moment. If we haven't gotten those end of the trip reports, how can we throw out 15 as a number? You know what I'm saying?
I know. Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know.
Right.
But it doesn't sound like a lot of people go. That's what I got when I asked last year.
Okay.
And I will ask the question this year: how many people out of those 50 people who voted do they anticipate will actually go?
Okay.
So by October 18th, that is our first payment, and you have to pay $100 to set your spot up, and there's other payment options as well if you have to pay it weekly or anything. So by October 18th, we will know how many people will be going on our senior trip.
I don't know if you heard that. They said they'll know by October 18th because that's when the first payment's due.
And that's non-refundable.
Yes.
So that
That
money.
sets your spot.
Yeah, that's a commitment.
So we will at least have that.
Everybody has to commit by October 18th?
Yes. With a deposit.
Okay, with a deposit of $100 that most poor people don't have. And then you work from there. So I guess I'd like to know on October 18th
Right.
how many people are doing it.
Right. But, and I don't know if you heard Jelana earlier say that they've already had a couple of fundraisers, and she personally used herself as an example, has already knocked $50 off and cut that $100 deposit in half herself. So there's some opportunity there, and there's
People
enough.
raising money for themselves. People raising money for themselves. It's not doesn't go to a general fund.
Is it it's an individual knockoff?
Yes,
Yes.
individually. For each fundraiser that you go to, a portion of our profits will be going towards the people who participated in helping. And our last fundraiser, which was Touch a Truck, we had 15 people show up and help. So 15 people ended up getting money off of their class trip.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
So I can hear that.
But she said that basically, like with their Touch a Truck fundraiser, 15 seniors helped with that, so the profit from it was divided amongst the 15 people.
I see. So they're not really working to try to help other people go. They're just working to help each other go.
Well, they're helping the people that are participating.
They help
Right.
themselves.
So I guess
Everyone is welcome to come.
With saying that they can go on the trip, I just really have a problem calling it a class trip because it's really not an inclusive class trip. It's an exclusive class trip because of it's too expensive for many people to go.
Everyone knows when our fundraisers are. We tell the entire class when our fundraisers are. We have a Facebook page that we announce what you can bring, what you can do to help us, and if they always have the opportunity. The opportunity is there. They know if they want to come and they want to help out, then they get money off. They already know that if you come to a fundraiser, you get money off. So it's open up to the whole class. The entire class knows what's going on, and it's up to them in order to put themselves out there to help themselves.
Okay.
I can't help everyone.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Stan?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Thank you.
And so, before you go, we'd like to know how many you've got going.
Right
Like-
now.
So,
No, you can let us know in October. We can
Yeah,
in
by
October, when you've got the,
We'll get an update.
thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, approval of minutes of August 19th, non-public session 3.
These are the ones that were tabled
Yeah.
last time.
Yeah.
Do we still have a answer on who it was seconded by, or? Oh, I'll make a motion to accept.
Well, Mrs. Moran already did, second by Mrs. McElhenney. The question was who made the second? Did we find that out in our notes?
I put it in the,
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I just must not have an
Oh,
updated
yeah,
one.
the version we have just says seconded by, so I'm not sure which one Cheryl printed. So did you change it? Okay.
I did, and
So-
it's also in the meeting minutes for for today, so they should be on the
Okay.
website.
Oh,
All
okay.
right,
They should be on the website, because
let
I
me take a
talked
quick
to-
peek and I'll tell you who it was.
Oh, yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure that was filled in, that's all.
You don't remember that off the top of your head.
Hold on.
See who gets to it first.
What was that, non-public 3?
Yeah.
Okay. There it is.
Seconded by Mr. Lewis?
Okay.
Yep.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Stan, thank you. Public session from September 9th.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. McElhenney.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lewis. Discussion.
I would, it says the viewing audience was reminded that there was no vote at the meeting, but there was a vote. So it was spoken, but there was a vote at the meeting prior to.
Where are you looking at?
I'm sorry, on page 1 into page 2, it says the viewing audience was reminded that there was no vote at the meeting. Actually, it's in page 2, the very top. There had been a vote at the August 19th meeting.
Okay, anything else? All those in favor? Aye. Non-public session 1 from September 9th. So moved by Mrs. Moran.
Second?
Second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion.
We don't need an apostrophe on others, and my title, I mean, it's probably known, but it wasn't on there, so, minor.
Which that'll be, oh, yeah, okay. That apostrophe is
All the way through.
all the way
yeah.
through, okay. Okay. All those in favor as amended? Aye. Non-public session 2 from September 9th.
So
So moved by Mrs. Moran, second by Mr. Frieda. Discussion? Same change? All those in favor as amended? Aye. Non-public session 3 from September 9th.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moran.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lewis. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
With that change, thank you. Aye. Oop,
Down at the bottom, it says move to come out of non-public session 1. That should be session 3. Yep.
oh, we have an amendment of, yeah, in that last sentence, thank you.
And actually, we need to make the same on non-public 2. Sorry.
Nope, it's okay. Let's go back and revote on non-public session 2.
As amended.
Motion as amended, or, well, I guess we already
I'll
accept
accept those.
changes.
Yes.
All those in favor? Aye. And with the change on non-public session 3 is amended, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Non-public session 4 from September 9th.
So moved.
That's, okay. Is this 4? Yes.
This is 4.
I have a motion by Mrs. Moran, second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion? Just change others again. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And a motion for non-public session 5.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Lewis, second by Mr. Frieda. Discussion?
And this one should read non-session 5 at the bottom.
Yep, 5 needs to be changed at the bottom. And again, the change with others. All those in favor is amended?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay, we're down to policies. Ms. Vaughn?
The policies that you have are the first half of the last pieces that are left for the boilerplate required by law pieces that are still hanging out there. The first one is procedural safeguards. The second,
Can I interrupt you?
certainly.
Going to close the public hearing at this
Okay.
time.
No, we're going to recess.
Oh, we're going to recess, thank you. We're going to recess the public hearing to our, we'll reopen
To our
it
next-
at our next meeting.
Our
Thank
next
you.
scheduled meeting.
Motion, we have a motion to recess.
I'll make that.
So moved by Mrs. Moran, second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
While we're getting into the policies, one of the things that we talked about at the last meeting was that we were going to review these, put them up on the website, and then
Yes.
revisit them at the next one.
Yes, so I was looking for a first read tonight.
Okay,
Yes, and then
so-
I will put these up, yes.
All right, so I was going to make a motion to accept the policies as listed as a first read.
Okay, yep.
Second.
So that's A through G as a,
Yes,
As a group.
as a group.
So a motion by Mrs. Moran to accept the group of policies for a first read. And a second by Ms. McEl. Oh, I think Linda already did, but that's fine. Discussion? All,
Just a question as far as putting them up online, is there a folder now that, and
There
do I
is
have
one,
access?
think. I
Okay.
couldn't tell you if you have access, but there
Okay.
is one on the website. I know
Okay.
I've seen it on the policy section.
Yeah,
This
I've
is
seen
under
I've
dis-
seen it in the policy
For discussion,
section as
okay,
well.
then we'll get those posted tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
all those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay, reports. We'll start off with Mr. Nitto and Student Services.
Sure. So some update information regarding the Student Assistance Program, which is funded through DHHS. We're in our 3rd year of it. And we have Ashley Sheedy, who's come back with us again as our Student Assistance Program counselor. We also were able to fund this year with carryover funds a certified social worker, Marcy. So right now, they're both very busy just since the beginning of August. And just to remind viewers what the Student Assistance Program is, it's a program that is grant funded in order to deal with prevention of alcohol and drug use and misuse. Also to offer emotional supports to students that are, living in families that might be struggling with such issues, or students that are recovering themselves. And so at this point, we have 67 students who have been referred to Ms. Sheedy, and 10 families that have been referred to our social worker. Families that are referred to the social worker for a number of reasons, not necessarily related to alcohol use, abuse, or anything like that. Could be to do with attendance, dealing with issues of anxiety, trying to get some services for students. So they're off and running already. October is the Substance Abuse Prevention Month, so they have a lot of activities they'll be working on with our guidance counselors. Medicaid to schools emergency rules. Superintendents and directors of student services have been meeting, trying to determine what's the next course of action regarding this. DHHS had made an emergency rule originally saying they're putting this emergency rule in place because the other rules governing Medicaid to schools reimbursement that schools can seek for providing related services like counseling, speech, OT, PT. It's a small amount of money that we're reimbursed for servicing students that have Medicaid. And the emergency rule was put in place saying originally that the reason this was put in place, otherwise schools wouldn't be able to get any reimbursement at all. However, at this point, what's being recommended by DHHS is that unless there is an order from, and it's, I think there in its exact language, prescribing the Medicaid cover service is generally being needed from a physician, a PRN, or physician assistant, which is entirely different from past practice, which has been our speech language pathologist who is certified can order, make an order or recommendation of referral that a child receive speech services and rehabilitative assistance or paraeducator assistance. Our physical therapist can make that recommendation. Our OT can make that recommendation. Our guidance counselors can make the recommendations in terms of behavioral services. So this is way beyond federal regulations. Federal regulations do not require that a physician order this particular work. So Ruth Ellen and superintendents that are part of Stratford Learning Center have been having conversations about how we can make this work. I've been having conversations with directors of student services about how we make this work, because in essence what they're asking us to do right now is to go to the physicians of every single child that receives services and get a permission to exchange information from the parent to talk to the physician, and then get the physician to fill out a form for us ordering those services at our school. So the rulemaking is in place, they say, until February 20th. So obviously, clearly, our school district and every school district in New Hampshire is impacted by this. So it's not something that's going to go away anytime too soon in terms of conversations, and I'll certainly keep you updated.
And this is in large part why last meeting I had said our Medicaid revenues are likely going to plummet, because we are going to be really limited in what we are able to get reimbursed for and how we're able to do that. One of the pieces that we are looking at with a small group of districts that are, what we have in common is Stratford Learning Center, looking to see if there's a way that we could secure the services of a contracted physician who would review IEPs and be overseeing those pieces for us, and look at the recommendations that have been made by our staff and whether or not those would be appropriate. Not sure if that's going to work or how that's going to go. We're looking to see what our options are.
But we are still recording the services that we're giving with the optimism that we are going to be able to bill, because we're going to be able to get one of either a physician that is going to work as part of kind of a consortium, or that we're simply going to go to the physicians that service these children already. But
it's not uncommon to get the release from the physician. But
it's not uncommon to get
but
that.
The second part is
highly unusual.
And
or at least it's not happened in a long time.
And not all of our students who are receiving services are necessarily under direct physician's care. And so then we are imposing on parents to have to establish and do that in order for the student to receive those services. And so it becomes much more complex than it was.
Well, the students will still receive the services.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, but we won't be reimbursed for that. No, services still happen. The IEPs are still implemented. We are still making sure that students receive what they need. It will impact our funding.
So in terms of attendance and truancy, as your truancy officer, we've made 7 home visits since the beginning of September regarding attendance. Just a reminder to those people in the viewing audience, the cutoff for truancy is 10 half-days of unexcused absences. And then I do have a link in my report regarding duty of the parent, which is RSA 193:1, compulsory attendance by pupil, and then RSA 189:35-A, truancy as defined. So we do want to work with families in terms of remedying the problems that are, prohibiting a child from getting to school, and please do reach out to us. We do request meetings with those students and parents that are experiencing difficulties. Welcome aboard to a number of new special education staff members. So we'd like to thank welcome John Billings for Farmington High School, John Giles for Farmington High School, Lori DeVoe for Valley View Community School, Catherine Milliken for Valley View, Jessica Slingluff from Valley View, and Sarah Amasio at Henry Wilson Memorial School.
Those case managers?
Yes, special education teachers and then case manager duties. District population special education. So in preparation for budget season, I've kind of put in front of you, and there's 2 years of attendance. So going back to these reports that I give you on a monthly basis, although you don't get one in November apparently based on the information I have in my database, 2017-18, which is on the third page here, shows you the kind of the progression, how we start in the beginning of the school year in terms of number of students with special education needs, and then kind of where we end up in May typically being the last significant report that I have. And you kind of see how things trend there. And then the same in 2018, 2019. So looking at those numbers, and you also see that, again, the caseloads by grade that I give you for every report that I do. Over the course of each school year, we've had between 16 and 22 students join our school district. So on average, we anticipate, at least going into this next school year, we're going to get 19 more students. And you can see based on the numbers that I have for you on that last page, we have 189 students right now with special education needs. And I show you the variance in terms of the grades. So I give that to you for your information going forward. In terms of those students that are out-of-district students, which is typically a question, we have 13 at this time. 3 were placed out-of-district in the sense that they were placed by Rochester Court into a location typically that is residential and has an educational component that is specialized and therapeutic for the students. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Explain the variance again. Sorry, I missed it.
So the variance is just the difference between the previous report that I gave you and the number that I'm seeing now when I go to my computer program and this. Okay.
And I will speak to the November because typically that's when we're in the teeth of budget season and we don't, because you're getting numbers in conjunction with population regarding budget, we don't do a separate report. Usually we suspend the administrator's reports that month because you're hearing from us on a lot of other fronts.
You ever do a breakdown? I don't know if you necessarily have to do it by month. Maybe you would because it looks like it fluctuates. Students that have been identified while attending here, students been identified in another school district and moved here. You ever break that down?
I could maybe break that down based on students that move here. It would be difficult. I could probably go, it would take a lot of combing through some numbers here. I could go through and take a peek. I mean, obviously we already have students in the referral process at this point.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah. I can take a a look and see what I can do that for you.
Don't let it haunt
Don't
you.
go crazy.
Just an observation.
Mr. Lewis, please.
Just an observation here. I noticed at May 18th, you had 186 students identified, but you start the year off at 169. So did 17 students graduate?
Or they move. Yeah,
Okay.
summer is typically a time, and I think any of the ladies sitting in this room can attest to the fact that we are registering kids right up to the day that school starts and then even after.
And it just seemed like a big jump all of a sudden. At the end of the school year, all of a sudden you identified extra students right at the end of the year. Were they floundering through the year?
Yeah, well, there's some that actually...
all those students move in at the end of the year.
We have a number of students actually that move in at the end of the year. It's kind of surprising, so it's...
It seemed like a big jump right at the end of the year. Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
mean,
It was
look at the
decreased the year
difference
before.
between just a month. It's amazing,
Yeah.
you know?
It's very, very.
But last year for that same reporting time, it went down.
Well, actually, they're flipped. So last year is
Right.
the first one, yeah.
Last year's here, so last year it went down from April to May.
No,
From this year, it went up.
no, 18, 19
This
was
is-
last year.
That's
so
2
this is-
school years ago, and this
this
is
is
last
last
year.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should have put them in the,
Oh, but they said this year.
yeah.
Oh, you meant this past.
Joining us. So a few weeks from now, we might begin to see those numbers climb.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, our first curriculum report.
I know.
Come on, you're
How
coming
exciting, huh?
Christy?
I just wanted to say, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. I've been very well received here. People have been wonderful to me. I've been asking a lot of questions, rather annoying probably, but people have really been very receptive and excited to meet with me. So I really appreciate that. And it's been kind of crazy the last 6 weeks, and I'm still in the weeds, but I'll get out of it. So I just sort of put together some things that I think would be interesting to you. Mostly the stuff I'll talk about tonight is just sort of the nuts and bolts, but other things are just FYIs and things that might be of interest connected to what we're doing in the district. So you'll notice I did put in here for you a list of trainings that I'm going to so that you can see where I'm going and what I'm doing when I'm not in the district. I thought that would be helpful. So we've gotten off to a really great start, and my end in terms of STAR testing, everybody's right in the midst of universal screening. STAR testing is going pretty well, and I want to thank my predecessor for setting that up because that set me up really well to not have weeks of setting that platform up. It was nice to walk in and be able to get going. And I've, part of my entry plan is to interview all the staff, and I'm probably halfway through. People have either met with me individually or in groups, and it's been really fun to meet people face to face. One of my goals is to make sure I make face to face contact often. So sitting with them and interviewing them has been helpful to start a relationship and for them to know who I am. And I have put out a survey and getting a lot of data from that. So that has been really helpful in getting to know the district. One of the things the administrative team has decided to sort of make their goal for this year is around social emotional learning. So I put some things in there that I thought would be of interest to you and other people. One thing I want to highlight that's happening in the region is a movie that's been out called The Kids We Lose. It's Dr. Ross Green's documentary. It's free and it's being shown at Spalding High School. It's a really great documentary, and I recommend anyone going to see it. It's heartbreaking, but it is certainly informative on some of the things that many of our kids from trauma are experiencing. And I also put in here just an update on a grant. What I thought I would do for you is, as in these reports, update you on different grants so that you have some information about them. And so I put Title I in here just to give you an idea of what it is what we spend funds on Title I for, what we've gotten for allotment this year. And one of the things I'd like to offer you as the board, at any of you, is to come see me, because I'd love to let you see the inside of these grants and understand how they work, how they're built. I think that might help you to really get an understanding of what the compliance is inside of them and how we have to build those out. It's really kind of too big for a board meeting, but I just want to extend that, and I would extend that to any of you to come see me, and I'd love to get you in there so that you can see them.
That would be awesome.
And I'm happy to set that up. So overall, though, I would just say that I'm really excited to be here, and I'm having fun. So we'll hopefully that's how it stays, right?
Was the date in here for Ross Green's, when was that again?
It's October 2nd. Sorry, it's on the very back on the bottom.
Okay.
And I put a link to the advertisement so that you could see it. And but it's at Spalding High School in their auditorium. And again, I recommend anyone who has that night maybe free or want to make it a date night or something, you can go see that movie.
And we can get that link put up on the website.
Yep.
So that it's available.
Yeah.
Ticket paper.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I went to one of his workshops as a very young teacher
Yeah.
many years ago and found him to be amazing, so.
Yeah, he's a great friend and mentor, and I've worked a long time with him. He's got a lot of great things, and I hope that maybe we can use him as a resource here.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Just general, are we putting the reports on the website as well, along with the minutes and everything like that? Because I think that some of these reports just are great and ought to be extended out to the public.
We certainly can.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I thought it was, which is why I sort of built it this way.
So,
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Okay, where are we at?
Technology.
Technology.
Should you just come over there?
sure, yeah.
Just pull the microphone up to her.
Yep. Yep, and he'll increase it from the... Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do my report. I'm also going to report a little bit coming in from last year because I was very busy over the summer, was not able to do the report that I would like to tell about the things we also did last year, leaving. When I came in, you know, I had a lot of external challenges that were not even in the district, they're external, such as we had the House Bill 1612. I'm not going to go into a long thing on that. We did a lot of training on that, and our new New Hampshire minimum standards on student and staff data privacy. We also had some challenges where Microsoft announced not supporting Server 2008 and Windows 7. And also VMware had announced that they were not going to be supporting Virtual Environment 5.5 at the time, as well as some others outside challenges. So when I came in...
what we were running. Yes.
Right. So, and the board as well, this because I've reported this in the past, that a lot of our infrastructure was on exactly those environments. We had aging servers, we had servers on 2003, 2008. We had way too many servers that needed to be streamlined. And we had, when I came on, think of it as a large pie chart where when I looked at the staff, we had, I'd say about 95% of that pie chart, I'll say 90% of that pie chart for staff were on Windows 7 at the time. And just small slice on green for Windows 8, Windows 10. And students was even a bigger amount. I'd say they were about 95% of that pie chart at the time. So those are some challenges. And we also had where the IT department was understaffed at the time was myself and Mr. Shagnon when he's free from teaching and videography. And so it was a big overwhelming task at first, but it was something that we just dove into and we tackled. And I have some very good reports coming out of that. So one, we have the district firewall has been up and running. It's been working so well. We have updated anti-malware and filtering capabilities so we can manage both the current and the future increasing number of devices and the increasing amount of network traffic. We're able to better protect from traffic from exploits coming externally, as well as protect our students and what they're able to access. I'm able to pull reports regularly. I have a lot more visibility to see who's trying to access our data, who's trying to access our network, and I'm able to instantly be able to block whether it's globally by a country or by IP address. So I have a lot more visibility. Our servers were combined and streamlined and upgraded. Now, last year we purchased just 2 servers. Even though we had a lot of servers that needed to be upgraded, I only needed to purchase 2. Because those 2 servers fixed a lot of issues in one set. What I did is I purchased 2 robust HP ProLiant servers where I was able to put a new updated virtual environment on it. Virtual environment allows you to create these virtual servers. So one physical box can have multiple virtual servers in one unit. And when I did that, I streamlined some of our servers. So instead of having a separate server for each little item, I brought them together into one when possible. So I was able to update our virtual environment. I was able to update almost every one of our servers to 2016 or 2012 except one. And when we're able to update that software, and Larry, whenever, I know he's more than wanting to, I actually have a virtual box ready to go when we can update that one. When I called Siemens and they're like, nope, sorry, you gotta stick with 2008. I'm like, I have to make an old new server? Okay. So I'm ready and all set to go when that's ready to go for Siemens. we also were able to take our most important resources, our core processes, and put them on the updated environment, the updated services. And I was able to repurpose some of our hardware that still had life in it, just needed to be repurposed so it was more of a supporting role. And so a lot of that I was able to repurpose in. And we had some wonderful things happen. This summer, we had 2 new staff members join us. Matt Johnson, welcome Matt. He comes from the Dover School District, and before that, the Rochester School District. And the first thing he did, because one of the biggest things I had was I was trying to image all these servers. I did not have a running imaging server. We had one that used to be up, and it was on an old imaging server that also needed to be replaced. He was able to come in and instantly help us set up so we could be off and running, imaging, and getting as many of the student devices and staff devices. So now, 96% of staff devices are on Windows 10, so that pie chart has flipped. So instead of purple, where most of them are Windows 7, it's flipped. So now the Windows 10, the staff are more green. They're up and that pie chart just keeps fixing and fixing until that little piece of purple is starting to disappear. And same thing for students. We're at well over 80% of the student Windows devices, not Chrome of course, are now also in Windows 10. And that pie is getting smaller and smaller and smaller of the ones that are still sitting on Windows 7 because of his great contribution right out of the gate. We also had Don Bansfield, who come in from the public sector. Don has just been this positive addition to the IT department. When Matt and I are working a lot on infrastructure and all the important pieces in the background, it's important that someone's there to make sure that the students and the teachers are being well supported, and he is that person. He is so positive in working with the teachers and the students. Matt also spends a good chunk of time supporting the staff and students, but Dawn is just there and lets us know, hey, we need you to jump back in, and they've just been such a good positive addition to the IT department. Valley View had a complete wireless overhaul. Valley View's wireless needed the overhaul. It was end of life, but also was only going down the hallway. So if you want to go to programs such as one-to-one, we now have it that the wireless is in the classrooms. And we also put more robust, capable access points in multi-purpose rooms, places where more staff would congregate to have large functions and staff development, so that we could be capable of holding all the staff devices in that location.
Without crashing everything like we were doing.
And saying, please go down the hall, catch a signal, and come back again. Now they can all sit in that one room and all be able to connect comfortably. We also now have a static inventory, software and equipment, which is one of the requirements for House Bill 1612, is to include a software inventory. And that was one thing that Don took on. He's working very hard to update that inventory constantly, including retired inventory, because we need to know if things go out, where do they go, and so forth. So he has been doing a lot of work tracking and documenting for me. We also had Lab 208 was refreshed this year. That was one where the comment was, there was a question from the board on when we might move in the curriculum to Adobe Creative Cloud, and we could not with the current computers that we had. Now we are in a place, so if we want to move there at some point, we can. What we did is we refreshed 208, and then we took and we rebuilt and upgraded 216, so that it really kind of refreshed both labs, if you will. And we also refreshed all of the cafeteria POSs. They've all been completely upgraded.
POS is the computers that they use.
Point of sale. Yes, sorry. Because it was one of the requirements from mealtime that the cafeteria point of sale computers had to be upgraded to Windows 10. So we said, let's just go ahead and do it. Let's upgrade those computers so that they're capable not just of this upgrade, but any future ones coming down the line. We also revived the tech committee. Last year, the tech committee met 5, maybe 6 times alongside the data governance committee. We started that last year, and we talked a lot. Last year was a lot of focus around House Bill 1612 and how to work with the new requirement that we have to vet all apps and programs and extensions before use in schools. So what we have been able to do is we have joined the Student Data Privacy Consortium. The Student Data Privacy Consortium is a consortium of districts across New Hampshire and Massachusetts where we're combined and using their legal resources to vet the privacy policies of the apps instead of every district redoing the wheel, each one of us. We're doing it together as a consortium. Because if you've ever read a privacy policy for a program, imagine reading it for hundreds of programs that the students and the teachers are using.
On average, how many programs do we have running right now?
Well, it's from just when I've surveyed them, I got up into, I'm close to 300 that I've submitted so far. So it's a lot, because it's not just programs, but it's extensions and things we don't think of that can connect and collect your information. So that's been a wonderful resource, because now on our website, if you go to the technology page, I have the list of what's been approved already from the original survey I did, but there's also a link now that staff can directly submit a resource to the consortium, and you can also go to the site and put in the New Hampshire and see not only the other districts involved, but apps that have been approved for different districts and apps that we've put in for approval. And we've also updated the technology program plan with putting into documentation our processes and procedures, including disaster and recovery information. It is on a live Google Doc. That way I can update it, but to be printed at least once a year. Could be printed more than once, but at least once a year in a location, so that if something happens and we need that disaster and recovery, whether it's I'm not here or whatever it is, that information is there. And the last thing I really want to, because he is listening, and that's why I turned off the AC, because we have a student IT help desk program, and he's watching tonight. Yep. And he did a little video, and he didn't want to present in person, but he did a video. If you'd like to watch, I can put that up. It's up to you.
How long is it?
Let me hit play. I think it's like 2 minutes. So I can put it up.
Sure.
But I'm just going to quickly tell about it. I actually was going to have Diana was referring a student to the program. I was excited, but he ended up taking a different program option, which is absolutely fine. So I'm going to put this up on the screen real quick. The Student Help Desk program, I'm going to talk a little bit before you hear Isaac talk. He was listening from home, and he asked me to turn off the AC. So cute. He said, it's much better now. So the Student Help Desk program, I've worked with doing ELOs before in other districts, whether as an ELO or as an official course. And I have curriculum that I've written in past districts. So the Student Help Desk program, it allows students to have hands-on career skills where they learn customer service. They get that hands-on experience that in a traditional classroom setting they may not. And I am going to bring this up. I think it's loud enough for everyone to hear, and it's near the microphone right here, so I'm not going to go too crazy with it. And let's see if I can.
IT Student Help Desk ELO Collective Learning Opportunity. Being on the Student Help Desk ELO program has allowed me to gain skills that wouldn't happen in a traditional classroom setting. I gained first-hand experience in customer service skills and learned how important it is to understand working with customers, even those who aren't always happy but need our help. When someone has a computer issue, they can be frustrated, and making them feel supported helps when trying to troubleshoot that issue. Customer service skills, not just technology skills, but also I have also learned about policies and procedures around safety of information and security, and how to balance it together with people's personalities. Balancing policies. Students joining the program may be able to learn new technology skills or tech skills, help teachers with their classroom technology, be involved in setting up for or supporting school or for other events, understand importance on being professional and why. If you make the person needing help feel supported, they feel more comfortable working around you. What I gained. I have gained from this program understanding of making sure clients or customers feel supported and comfortable so that I can help them with their issue. I learned about different policies around information and privacy and decide how processes and accessing technology can be affected. It is not just making sure something simply works. It is done in a way that security and privacy is protected. The last major thing I learned is that we are actually all learning from each other, even when going to help someone with an issue, as technology is always changing. Each experience teaches you something new, especially when you're hands-on and doing it like an ELO credit.
Awesome.
So
Thanks,
that was
Isaac.
Isaac's first. That's
Isaac.
as part of the ELO program, and he was and he still is. And he'll volunteer after school, and I would like to thank his mom, if she is watching, for all the times that she's come to pick him up after school. She has been wonderfully supportive. He absolutely loves it, and he's right. I learn from him, he learns from, we all learn together. And the things that he gets from it, or that any of the students receive from this, is that hands-on when you're working experience, and when you're doing customer service and you're working with the teachers. It's like, I say, learning how to use your powers for good, because they understand, like, oh, when they feel supported, they feel safe, then I'm able to help them better. And it's just amazing. And I love this program. I'm excited to have started it here. I'm hoping we're going to market it so that we can perhaps grow it in the spring and get some more students in. It is one that I've done in the past. One exciting thing that they will get to do this year, and I do want to mention it, and he's excited about it, is I bring student help desk programs from all over the state to the Krista McAuliffe Technology Conference every year, and video production teams such as Mr. Shagnan's, and we are the IT support for the conference. I've been doing it for years now, and the students, they just amaze me. They just come in, they get their job, and they go. And it's not where you have to sit and watch. They do it. They just so change. The professionalism is just amazing. And so he's excited to get to go this year, because we started in the spring last year. And so he'll be part of that event in November. So I wanted to share that fun and exciting news with the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Jen about her report?
Just a clarification. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Stan.
Jen, first off, thanks for starting the program. It's really wonderful, and I'm so happy that you're doing it in Farmington. So thank you for all your support for technology. It's been really great. My question is, will we have student representation on our technology committee?
I'm sorry?
Will there be student representation on the technology committee?
Oh, that's a good question, and that's something now, I have the one student, but that's something that I can do, absolutely. That's a good idea, Stan. I hadn't thought of that, because I just started in the spring, so that's a good idea.
So to be determined.
A little more experience with committee work.
All right, Mr. Lewis?
Yeah, just from my understanding, CAF point of sale, that's for the cafeteria, the subcontract. Do they kick in money for that program since they're benefiting it from us? Is there a kickback to us? Because they're making profit from what they're doing.
We need it to run mealtime, which is a piece that we contract with. That's not part of cafe services. So whether it was cafe services or not, we needed it in order to run mealtime. Is that the right answer?
Yes.
Okay.
That's it.
Clarification.
That's fine.
Any other questions for Jen? Thank you.
Yep.
We have a treasurer's report in our packet. Any questions of you've seen and received the treasurer's report from Mrs. Bork?
Anything I need to take
Anything
back?
for her? Where did Mrs. Warren go?
I think she stepped out.
She went to the bathroom. Okay. Anything? No?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Bork, for your report. New business. Acceptance of the National School Lunch Program Equipment Assistance Grant.
And you have in your packet, we had applied for a school assistance grant for the purchase of a freezer for Henry Wilson. And just today, the alarms were going off as the high temp alarms were talking to us. So this is in good time. We have been selected to receive an equipment grant in the amount of $27,028.83. And this is for the purchase of a freezer for Henry Wilson. So this was applied for late this summer, and now I need the board to vote to accept the funds so that we can move forward with this project.
Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Frieda to accept $27,028.83. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion?
Just point of clarification on here, it says for a walk-in refrigerator and freezer, but we are just doing the freezer?
It's a combination. They're all attached. It's huge. Yes.
Okay.
This hasn't been installed as of yet.
No.
What does that do, and how long will it take to install so we don't lose food items or whatever's in there?
Well, we're looking at, we've got to look at the timing closely. I'm not sure if we can do it over a Christmas vacation. We've looked at it because if for some reason it gets back ordered, it's not a one-day installation.
Right,
They've got to break out what's in there and then assemble.
Well, it's wintertime, just throw it outside, right?
Well, I did suggest that it wasn't met with a lot of enthusiasm. There is a possibility that we may have to wait till the last day of school so that we can get the freezer cleared out and then go. We're working with Cafe Services to see if there's another possibility, but we're not sure that a week is going to be sufficient. If we do it right at the close of school, that might give us at least the 10 days, hopefully no snow, that we can do that and get it done. So it needs to be expended and completed by June 30.
That was going to be my next question. Coming to another fiscal year coming up.
We got to get it done.
Right. Okay.
And for that matter, with the state of the freezer, we got to get it done. So.
Will this freezer hold up till then?
Your mouth to God's ear.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Is there an opportunity for us to use the other schools? I'm going way back to when I went to school and they
If we need to,
transport
yes.
food back and forth.
If we came down to
Way
things
back.
started to deteriorate in that quick, yes, we would have to go there.
Is this something that can wait to public, or is it more pertinent now? Yeah, go ahead.
The grant was applied for in the summer months, then it wasn't an item that was included in the operating budget, correct?
Correct.
So why isn't this unanticipated revenue?
It is. That's why it's being accepted.
But don't you need a public hearing over $5,000?
For the grant, we can do that.
That's right, it's 27,000.
We will. Thank you.
And my next question, is there a match?
No, this is a.
100%?
Yes.
Okay. Just as a point of order, I think you need the public hearing in order to accept it if it's unanticipated revenue.
And we're going to have, so we're going to be scheduling one anyway.
Well, we recessed the other one.
No, but she has to do another one.
Well, we need to decide, and this isn't necessarily for right now, but we need to decide whether you're going to expend for the day tank from the renovation and construction fund, or if you're going to do it from the heating equipment fund. If it's from the heating fund, then we need to do a separate public hearing. So we'll unwind that in another piece. This is, it's not the same. But we could certainly, if we were going to post a public hearing, they could be posted together. Yes.
Right.
If you needed one.
Right. Mrs. McElhenney?
Just a question, this is going out for bid, this is just to purchase?
Purchase and install.
Because I remember in the past, we've had items that have been installed in the kitchen that seemed a bit above what I would have thought an installation for an item installed.
You've already looked at the grant, you've already looked at the bid for this process. We're just now receiving funding for, but you've looked at the bid for this as a board.
I'm just not remembering it off the top of my head.
I believe it was August 5th, but I'd have to go back.
Okay, I'll go back and look at that then. I just wanted to make sure that we were factoring in the install
Yes,
amount as well.
absolutely. I'm not that good at riveting myself.
I'm just thinking about whether we should do, when we should do that public hearing.
Actually, no, you did the, I'm sorry, you did the public, you did the bid
No, I'm
on
talking
this.
about this
No, I
one.
know, but I need to correct. The
Oh,
bid
okay.
was for the day tank, not for this.
Okay.
So I take that back.
Okay.
Oh, so we still have to do the bid?
Because this still
You
has to
need
go out to bid.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I don't believe.
we already did it.
Did you do a bid
Yeah,
for the
we already
freezer?
did.
I remember
You did
seeing
for
a
the
bid for a
daytime.
freezer.
Okay, then you did do that. I was, so I may have the date wrong, but I did see it. Okay.
We accepted a bid?
I know we put out an RFP.
I think we saw the RFP.
Yeah.
Nothing's coming to my mind.
Okay, we'll go back and look at that.
So should we table this till the 23rd?
Or did you want to do a public hearing on the 7th?
Well, we're gonna come out of recess from the one we're in tonight on the 7th.
Yes,
And
but this has not been posted, so cannot be included in that same.
No, I know
public
that.
hearing.
No, I know
So unless
that.
you wanted to do it on the 21st, which
Well,
would
that's
be
what
the
I'm,
second, yeah.
that's what I was thinking.
I
is-
think if we did that, I'd like to make mention that this other one was recessed, so it will be in combination with, well, not necessarily in combination, but the other one will be happening in conjunction.
Why can't we just do it on a different night? Do it on the
That might be cleaner.
21st.
Okay.
It's just cleaner, and we have
Okay.
time.
Okay.
Right?
So, I believe so.
I mean, it's fine, it's not gonna slow the project up.
I don't believe it will.
Okay.
No.
All right, I'll motion to table until the 21st of
Well, who's the original motion by?
I think Stan and...
Stan.
and I
Mr.
think-
Friede, withdraw your motion.
And I'll withdraw my second.
Okay.
Thank you. And motion by Mrs. Moran to table.
Second.
Second by Mr. Frieda. All those in favor? Aye.
Bye.
Was there something else under new business? There's another there, that's why.
It was in case other came up.
Yeah. Anything else in the new business, folks? Okay. All right, old business, explanation of unexpended fund balance for school year 19.
One of the things that came up at the workshop last week was the unexpended fund balance for school year 19. There are a number of variables, and our final figure has not been decided. However, there were some questions about how those things came about. And one of the larger pieces of that unexpended fund balance was the preschool fund and the E-rate fund that had been established as funds 23 and 24 respectively. They had been reported on our revenues reports since my tenure and back further than that. Because those were established without a public vote, the advice that we had received was that those were returned to the town. And Melanson Heath had mentioned that during the 2017 piece and said that needs to be unwound. They did not assist us in that process. Plotzik and Sanderson said, we're going to look at that. You're 18, we're trying to establish that baseline because you have had 4 years in rapid succession. We'll get that baseline for 18 and it will be unwound in 19. Well, 19 is in process. And so that is being put back into general fund, those two funds. The E-rate fund is about $106,000. That is being returned to the taxpayers as part of our unexpended fund balance. The preschool fund, and I don't have an exact figure on that, that is also being returned. It ends up being around $12,000 a year, but I'm not sure exactly where that ended up for the last piece. That is also being added to the unexpended fund balance, as is the last fund there that was Fund 61, that goes back to the days when the SAU was a separate account because it was considered a separate entity. It wasn't part of the Farmington School District, it wasn't part of the Middleton School District, it was its own. And so that was where Fund 61 came from. It was partly commingled funds from Farmington and Middleton, and when the districts separated, that fund was set aside pending any other legal disentanglement that needed to happen. And now we've gotten to the point where that part's done, it's settled, and whatever is left there needs to come back to the taxpayers. And that is also coming back as part of our unexpended fund balance. The expenditure analysis that was sent is essentially the year end of 2019 at the close of June 30th any of the encumbrances have been released as of this report, and this shows what was left in each of the cost centers. So if you look at a full report like you receive monthly for your expenditure report, this is, if you go down to the bottom of 11 and you get to the bold where it says, here's what's left in that, that's what's here. That's where that came from. The majority of the unexpended pieces here, we've got over $300,000 that was in salary and benefits for positions that we weren't able to fill last year. We have a good portion of this comes down to, whoops, where's my, well, there's a second page to that. So do you not have the back page?
We have
Okay.
we in the back.
I don't have the back.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, I will get you, it's the same thing that you received earlier, but two of the pieces that were included here somewhat inflated that bottom line figure because the two warrant articles for the roofs that were done, one was for $552,000, one was for $59,000 for the high school and Henry Wilson roofs respectively. Those projects came in quite a bit less than we had anticipated. But the amounts for those warrants were put into the general fund. Not really sure why they were deposited there because they were never taken out of the capital reserve. The capital reserve withdrawals only happened from what we actually expended. And so this looks like we had that additional $240,000 sitting in our general fund, which we didn't. It was there on paper, but there was never a withdrawal made because it was in the capital reserve. We only tap the reserve for what we have expended. So that part was an artificial inflation there. With that removed, we have an unexpended fund balance of 4.18%. Our business administrator had said target is typically between 3 and 5%. We're right smack in the middle. Now, would I like to see that lower? Yes, I would. Yes, I would. And we had some issues last year. We have additional monies that are coming in that are going to raise that above. And we're going to have to see exactly where that number ends up with our pieces back and forth. We're hoping that I'm going to have that unwound this week. We still have 3 more pieces that I'm waiting for from our auditors, and poor Jenna's been ripping out her hair trying to get those last pieces done. We understand that we have an extension until September 30, and we have October 1, and we have every intention of meeting that deadline.
Can we back up just a little bit?
Sure.
Because I remember Mr. Brown saying something about DRA won't set the tax rate until...
Yes. There are other pieces. I mean, we want to honor the extension that we've been given. There are other pieces that are involved in setting the tax rate. The town needs to get pieces in, we need to get pieces in, and the state needs to get pieces in. And until we know what we're receiving from the state, nothing happens.
Okay.
So
I just wanted to make that clear.
Absolutely, thank you.
Questions?
So you said the regular ed programs of 320,000 you were unable to fill, not that they weren't needed.
They were certainly needed, but we weren't able to. It was regular ed and special ed both.
Okay,
We
just
had
says regular
position.
ed.
Okay, well, that was
the number I referenced.
right,
anyway.
and then special ed had another 39,000 that was there. Both of those, we had positions that were absolutely needed. We had services that were not done the way they probably could have been done, or maybe should have been done, because I didn't have the personnel to fill those.
Just
In terms of regular ed, special ed, no, special ed got covered,
Yeah,
yes.
That was my
Our
To the exclusion.
Came mostly in terms of some funds that we had that were, and I went back through my budget, so if I can grab that for a moment. We had 8 pairs that departed district-wide, and then they were replaced by 5 that came in at different times, but also came in at a lower rate. One of them who came in as a one-on-one, and then we were fortunately able to keep as a special education teacher, and her student happened to go to out of district as a result of some court action. So there were issues like that occurred, so that it wasn't that students were without the services in special education.
Well, for example, we had a math class being co-taught.
Correct. There was a math class that was in the regular education that was
one example.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just kind of making that clear that unable to fill isn't the same as
Didn't need it.
didn't need it.
Correct. Yeah, I much prefer having it fully staffed, as do my teachers.
Questions? I'll set it down.
Oh, I just had a comment, actually, I wanted to make. I just wanted to actually thank you guys for this expenditure analysis. I realized that after that, the meeting that we had for the budget, you guys kind of scrambled to kind of put this together to answer a lot of the questions that we had raised. And I realize a lot of thought and effort went into this, and I just really want to extend that.
Yes.
And I just want to make sure it's okay for me to also share this information with the budget committee.
Sure.
Definitely.
Perfect.
It's public document.
Yeah, I just
I'll
wanna
make sure you
it's-
have both pages.
Everything's up to date.
Yes,
and
yep.
everything. Yeah.
And then if there's anything that you wanted to go over with that before you, I'm happy to do that too.
Thank you.
Any other old business from the board? Anything else?
Oh, yes, I do have one. CIP committee is looking to start meeting again. I don't know if the board has replaced Mrs. Cardinal. I know that Mrs. Moran had served as the alternate, and she's also picked up several other positions, so I wasn't going to assume that it would be.
Thank you.
When does that?
They
is there-
haven't set a date and time. Last year, the meetings were before 5 o'clock, which makes it difficult. I certainly could advocate for later.
No comment.
Anybody?
I work till 5.
Yeah.
Well, you could go at 5, though.
Oh, well, I 5:30.
So, I mean, I could tell them that.
When will the first one take place?
I need to let them know who and what our availability is. So basically, I held Erica off because I said, I'm not sure who our rep is going to be. We have a meeting Monday night. I'll talk to you on Tuesday. So that's where we are.
Budget committee is the same thing too. I got that same email, and I'm no longer in.
I'll gladly sit in until somebody else.
So we can get them later?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you, okay.
I'm happy to advocate for a later meeting if we need to do so as well. I mean,
So like 5:30, Joel could maybe.
See how that happens.
You like that? Or even Mr. Lewis.
I never know my schedule.
I'll do it.
Let's see when it's going to be, and then we'll.
Okay. All right.
Again, it depends on what night, because if it's a
tag.
Thursday, that's not happening at 5:30.
Right.
For me,
Right.
you know, so it depends on the night.
And last year they were Thursdays.
Yeah.
So that might
That
not
was
be
the
the
issue
case.
last year with me.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah. So for now, I'll.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Moran. All
And
right.
if I could just clarify, so Mr. Brown, we don't have a representation from the budget committee either for this meeting. So if you want, I can bring that up at the next budget committee meeting and see if we can.
Well,
get
they
someone-
must know if you get the
I don't
email.
know what.
Well, you
Because
submitted
the
that.
email for the membership was
Right.
addressed to me.
Oh, and you were the former, okay, I understand.
But I can raise that question
Yeah.
at the budget committee and let them know that they need to offer someone up to that committee.
Okay, good. Thank
We have
you.
chocolate, it's usually fun.
Anything else? Public participation?
I have something real quick,
Yeah.
only because I have a student watching and he's been waiting patiently.
Okay.
So, and I missed it because I was presenting. Isaac wanted to say thank you to you all, that he's been watching the whole time. He's been very dedicated at home watching. He actually said he would like to be able to come in person at a future board meeting and present on what he's doing and the ELO programs in general. So he would like the opportunity to do that. He also wanted to let you know he was sick with a cold the day he recorded. But he he wanted to talk to you, have the opportunity to talk to you, and to thank you all for being able to do so.
Thanks,
Thank you. Thanks, Isaac. Mr. Brown?
I'll be brief.
First, on the fund balance analysis, can they go up on the public website so taxpayers can take a look, please?
Absolutely.
Secondly, just briefly, discussion before that you're going to meet, I'm assuming in non-public, to discuss the investigation. And one of the things that I'd like to see come out is if the attorney's proposing findings and recommendations, it's kind of useless unless you don't know the scope. And my understanding is the scope is not going to be released as a public document. You're talking about meeting with the Board of Selectmen. Safety issues, homeland issues are protected under 91A. You can meet in non-public session. You can sit down, resolve any communication issues that are present, identify issues, and let the public know that, yep, we may have looked at an issue, there was no issue, or we've identified issues and we've corrected them through this process. I think it's time to move on the he said, she said, he did, and realize that there's a communication issue on both sides of the table. Let's fix the problem. My last comment is on the public safety app. It was part of that public hearing. I didn't bring it up because I didn't know whether that money was being tied to it. There's a lot more technology out there that's going to better our students. I spent 28 years in law enforcement. I've managed scenes where 90 police officers have been there, AK-47s. I've had issues with the school when we tried to shut down the buses that day. And I don't want to come out in a public session and tell you the problems you've had. I've seen safety issues in the school. I've personally addressed those with the superintendent. From what I understand, they've been fixed, which is a good thing. But no school's perfect. And you've got one opportunity to get this right. So get it right with the coordination of everybody and decide, after looking at everything, hey, this is the best for our kids. And that coordination is selectmen, take some public input, and I'll be up front. I'm in the business. I know next week, next month at IACP, the International Association of Chief of Police's grant money being announced for the same thing. So there's technology out there that changes. I talked to the chief that manages the dispatch committee in Stratford County. He doesn't want dispatchers watching video live as part of their primary duty. I can tell you, when I went in on the incident that was up in Middleton with the AK-47 and I reviewed dispatch tape, I was horrified at what I heard of what went on behind the scenes that when you're out in the field, you don't know of. And while a lot of this stuff sounds good in theory, when you looked at the practical aspects of what's going to take place, it doesn't make sense. There's better technology. So I just ask, when you make those decision processes, you don't have to go with the taxpayers' recommendations, but be open, take suggestions and listen, because you might find a better solution that's going to save either a staff member's life or a child's life.
Thank you. Other, yes.
Over the course of the summer, I saw many agendas that had policies on the agenda as a first read. And that same night, policy ABC comes up, it's a first read, it's voted and accepted that night. That confused me. Is there something that I missed? Because your policy says you'll do a first read, you'll do a feedback read, and then you'll do a final read. And there must have been 30 of these that were brought on the agenda as a first read, but approved that same night. What did I miss?
Well, I don't know if this is an answer for every incident where that occurred, but there definitely were some nights where we had them posted as a first read, and that was not accurate.
Okay.
Because we would sit there and say, wait a minute, we already did a first read on these, and then we adopted them. I don't know if that is 100%.
Because you were up against a timeline, too, of having, there was a date that a lot of policies had to be reviewed and renewed, but as a rookie, I'm sitting there saying, first read, final? Huh?
So Mary, I also responded to you by email on August 16th that you were You are accurate that as outlined in policy BGB, a period of time is typically permitted to allow input on proposed policies. But policy BGF permits the board to suspend policy by unanimous vote of the board when the proposed suspension has not been described in writing. And that in the particular meeting that you were talking about, which I think was August 5th, all board members were in attendance on the date of August 5th, which I believe is the date you were referencing, I say in my email, and the vote was unanimous in favor of the motion to take all policies on the agenda as a final read. And so that's kind of what I offered to you at the time as kind of what was already in policy as a means by which to kind of support.
And the only part of that response that I think was missing was a vote by the board to actually do that. Suspending of, we vote tonight that we're going to suspend this policy.
That our legal counsel has, if they all vote in favor of, that is the tacit suspension, and they are allowed to do that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. The unexpended fund balance, you said you have a number on a document. That's going to be on the website. Do we have a number?
I don't have a number on the unexpended fund balance. What I do have is an analysis of the final expenditures for the year for Fund 10. It's not all the other pieces. It's for the general fund. That I can put up online.
Okay. One final thing, as having retired after 5 years of being a treasurer, I'm not on Facebook anymore, so I don't even know where this came from. But I have been told that major changes were made when I retired and the new treasurer took over, and that was because the previous treasurer did not perform up to the requirements of the position. I take grave exception to that. I did everything this board ever asked of me, and that's my reputation that's out there. If I've done something, or in those 5 years I did something, I would like to know about it, and not.
Well, Mary, I was here during the summer, and I don't recall that ever being a conversation, so.
And I was not, but it certainly hasn't come up since I've been back at all.
Does this board feel that way?
Yeah,
absolutely not.
Honestly, the first I've heard of it is what you just said now. Not at all.
Should we ever feel that way about someone who's providing a service to us? I'm a straight shooter. I'd be the first one to say, "Hey, Mary."
I would have hoped you'd stop me in year 1, not year 5.
Exactly. No.
Thank you. I just, for my own sake, I needed to clarify that and understand clearly from this group that that was not.
No. In fact, a statement was made, and I think you're aware of it, thanking you for your service and talking about the quality of the service that we felt you provided.
And I totally appreciate that. This came up afterwards.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And I would have this documented in the minutes and on tape. Absolutely.
I don't care about that much. I care about this group, who I worked very closely with, most of you, for a number of years, and I always felt that it was a positive relationship.
Absolutely.
And,
still is.
Yes. Still is, absolutely.
It's a really good segue with some of the stuff that Mr. Brown just shared too, and I had thought about this earlier while Chief is present. Chief, I said this publicly following graduation, but since you're here now, I would just say on behalf of the board, around the time of graduation, which was about 3 months ago at this point, there was some misinformation floating around out in the community, combined with some incident that occurred in the community that made people feel that graduation may be a little unsafe. With the combined effort of the select board, the police department, and the school board and our administration, the police presence and safety and the feeling of safeness that people had in the days leading up to graduation and at graduation was tremendous. And so thank you again for that. And as I shared with Chairman Prue on that day, Chairperson Prue, excuse me, if that's the way we work together moving forward, it's only going to be better for Farmington. So thank you, Chief. And thank you to Captain Orlando, too. He's a big role in that as well. Okay, anything else, folks?
I'm reminded to vote on all those things you had hanging around during your public hearing.
Do you want to do that, though, after we recess? I don't know if I want to do that.
It's two separate issues. A lot of the things you were talking about were...
Well, so...
The problem is, one of them, if you want it all on one night...
I think probably the one that's hanging out that would be good to have wrapped up is the day tank issue. Thank you. Because if I'm going to post another public hearing, I need to do, for the other capital reserve fund, I need to do that. If you're going to go from the capital reserve fund for the renovation and construction fund, that was the one that happened on May 13th. Now, it may very well be, for clarity's sake, we're a good chunk of space away from May 13th. We may want to post a public hearing for this anyway, but I want clarification around what you'd like me to do with that, because we're going to need to be able to take care of those bills at some point.
What's the board's pleasure?
What's in the CRF that we're taking it from? There's ample.
Yes, there's ample in either. So the amount is a little over $14,000. I think it's $14,125. There is over $100,000 in each of the.
I'll make the motion that we continue on the path of the original CRF from May.
Okay.
Whatever.
May 13th.
13th.
And that was from the construction and renovation.
That was from construction and renovation.
That's
Motion by Mrs. Moore and a second by Mr. Frieda. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Okay. So then, having voted to go from that, was that a vote to expend that amount from that, or was it just simply to remain with that? I want to clarify the vote, because I need to make sure it's in the minutes correctly. Was that to stay with that fund, or was it to expend the funds for that day tank from that account?
Expend the funds from that account.
Okay.
Do you agree with that, Stan?
I do.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure that the minutes reflect that. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
You want to vote?
What? You want to revote? I mean, you just...
we just.
Do you want to have the amount in it?
Second.
We did.
Okay.
14,125. I
Okay.
thought she did. Didn't she
Yeah.
say 14,125? You want to revote on that?
Oh, I
Is
thought
there
that's
any-
what
With
we
the
were doing.
with the specification? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Stan? Okay. Folks, our next meeting will be October 7th?
Yes.
October 7th, right here at 6:30. Thank you to those of you who joined us from home this evening, and those of you who came out this evening. Appreciate your input tonight. I will entertain a motion to go into non-public session 2 under RSA 91A:3 A, B, and C for personnel. So moved by Mrs. Moore and second by Ms. McElhenney. All those in favor by roll? Aye. Good night, folks. Thank you.